If I gave you $10,000 right now, but told you that you had to spend it only on yourself, on your mind, your skills, your character, how would you spend it? Most people freeze when I ask that question because we've been taught to think about money and success, but we haven't been taught to think about ourselves as the investment. Here's the truth that changed my life. You are the asset. Not your job, not your house, not your car, you. And if you're not appreciating in value every single day, you're depreciating. The marketplace doesn't care about your excuses. It only cares about what you bring. And discipline is how average people become valuable people. It's how ordinary lives become legendary. The question isn't whether you can change. It's whether you will. Now, I want you to stay with me for the next hour because what I'm about to share with you has the power to completely transform your life. Not in some mystical, magical way, but in a real, practical, everyday kind of way. The kind of transformation that starts small and builds into something extraordinary over time. You see, you've been lied to. You've been told that discipline is for the gifted, the motivated, the naturally driven, that it's a personality trait you either have or you don't. That success belongs to people who were born different, stronger, smarter, more talented. That's a lie. And it's a lie that keeps average people average. Here's the truth nobody wants to tell you. Discipline isn't about willpower. It's about decision making. It's not a feeling, it's a system. It's the gap between who you are and who you want to become, and discipline is the bridge you cross every single day through small, seemingly insignificant choices. The core pain you're feeling right now, that frustration, that gap between your potential and your reality, it doesn't exist because you lack talent. It exists because you lack structure. You lack the understanding that success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day, while failure is simply a few errors in judgment repeated every day. I'm going to show you how discipline transforms ordinary people into legends. Not through hype, not through motivation, but through philosophy, principle, and practice. We're going to explore why discipline is the highest form of self-love, why it separates those who dream from those who do, and how you can build it starting today, even if you've failed 100 times before. This isn't common advice. This isn't about hustle culture or grinding yourself into exhaustion. This is about becoming the kind of person who keeps promises to themselves. The kind of person the world can rely on. The kind of person who looks in the mirror and feels proud. If you're tired of starting over, if you're ready to stop being potential and start being proof, stay with me. Because what you're about to hear will change the way you see yourself, your habits, and your future. Let me start by telling you a story about two farmers. Two farmers who lived side by side. They had the same soil, worked under the same sun, received the same rain. If you looked at their land from a distance, you'd think they had equal opportunity, same resources, same starting point, same chance at success. But after 5 years, one farmer was wealthy and the other was barely surviving. One had barns full of grain, livestock thriving, money in the bank. The other was struggling to make ends meet, constantly behind, always starting over. What made the difference? It wasn't the soil. It wasn't luck. It wasn't some secret technique that one knew and the other didn't. The difference was simple but profound. The successful farmer planted in the spring, every spring, without fail, even when he was tired, even when the market was uncertain, even when it didn't feel exciting, even when he didn't feel like it. He understood something that most people never grasp. He understood that you reap what you sow, but you also reap after you sow. There's a season between planting and harvest. And during that season, nothing visible is happening. The ground looks the same. Your bank account looks the same. Your life looks the same. If you judged your progress during that season, you'd think nothing was working. You'd be tempted to quit, to try something else, to look for a shortcut. But underground, something profound is happening. Roots are forming. The seed is breaking open. Life is beginning. You just can't see it yet. The successful farmer trusted the process. He didn't need to see immediate results. He knew the law. Plant in spring, harvest in fall. It's not a suggestion. It's not a maybe. It's a law, as certain as gravity. And he respected that law. The struggling farmer, He planted when he felt like it, when conditions seemed perfect, when he was motivated, when inspiration struck. Some years he'd plant, some years he'd wait, some years he'd plant halfway through the season because he finally got around to it. And because he was inconsistent, he never built momentum. He never compounded his efforts. He was always starting over, always behind, always wondering why things weren't working for him. Now, here's what I want you to understand, and I mean really understand. You are both farmers. Your life is the field. Your daily habits are the seeds. And discipline is the commitment to plant every single day, regardless of how you feel, regardless of whether you see results yet, regardless of whether anyone is watching or applauding. Most people fail not because they don't know what to do. That's rarely the problem. Information's everywhere. You can learn anything you want to learn. The problem isn't knowledge. The problem is application. The problem is consistency. The problem is that people plant for a week, a month, maybe a season, and when they don't see immediate results, they quit. They move to a different field, a different strategy, a different dream. They spend their whole lives planting and abandoning, wondering why they never get a harvest. And the answer is simple. You can't harvest what you didn't finish planting. You can't reap where you didn't sow. And you can't expect crops from seeds you planted yesterday. But legends, they stay, they plant, they water, they wait, and they trust the process even when the ground looks empty. They understand that the magic isn't in the planting, it's in the staying. It's in showing up day after day after day when there's no evidence that anything is working. That's where ordinary people become extraordinary. Not in the moments of inspiration, but in the moments of commitment when inspiration is nowhere to be found. I learned this lesson the hard way. Let me tell you about a moment that changed my life forever. I was 25 years old, broke, and working a job I absolutely hated. I'd wake up every morning with this heavy feeling in my chest. You know that feeling? That sense of dread before your feet even hit the floor? That was my life. I had dreams, big dreams. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be wealthy. I wanted to make a difference. I'd talk about my dreams with anyone who would listen. I'd get excited about new ideas, new opportunities, new possibilities, but nothing ever happened. Nothing ever changed. Because here's what I didn't understand then. Dreams without discipline are just fantasies. They're pleasant thoughts that make you feel good for a moment, but they don't change your life. They don't pay your bills. They don't build your future. I'd start strong every Monday. I'd make all these commitments to myself. This is the week I'm going to change. This is the week I'm going to read every day, exercise every day, work on my skills every day. I was full of intention, full of desire, full of hope. But by Wednesday, I was right back to my old habits. Remote control in hand, junk food on the table, another day wasted. I'd make promises to myself in the morning and break them by noon. I became someone I didn't respect. And that's a terrible way to live when you can't even trust your own word. One morning I was standing in front of the mirror getting ready for work, and I looked at my reflection. Really looked. And I didn't recognize the person staring back at me. Not because I'd changed physically, but because I realized something that hit me like a punch to the gut. I had become unreliable. Even to myself. Especially to myself. If you had asked me to do something, I might have followed through. If my boss asked me to complete a task, I'd probably get it done. But if I promised something to myself, that meant nothing. I was the person I let down the most. And that's when it hit me, this thought that changed everything. If I can't count on me, why should anyone else? If I don't keep promises to myself, how can I expect to keep promises to others? If I don't take myself seriously, how can I expect the world to take me seriously? I realized that every broken promise to myself was eroding my self-respect. Every time I said I'd do something and didn't do it, I was teaching myself that my word didn't matter, that I wasn't worth following through for. And over time, those broken promises had accumulated into this mountain of self-disappointment. Standing there in front of that mirror, I made a decision. A simple decision. I decided that for the next 90 days, I would do one thing every single day that I didn't feel like doing. Just one thing. Not 10 things. Not a complete life overhaul. Just one small act of discipline every day. Some days it was reading for 30 minutes when I'd rather watch television. Some days it was going for a walk when I'd rather sit on the couch. Some days it was working on my skills when I'd rather do nothing. It didn't matter what it was. What mattered was that I kept my word to myself. What mattered was that I became someone I could count on. The first week was brutal. Let me be honest with you. It was one of the hardest things I'd ever done because every cell in my body wanted to quit. Every part of me wanted to go back to the easy, comfortable, familiar pattern. My mind would give me every excuse in the book. You're tired. You deserve a break. One day won't matter. You can start again tomorrow. But I didn't quit. I kept that promise. And something interesting started happening. Something I didn't expect. By week 3, I started looking forward to that daily challenge. Not because it got easier, it didn't, not really. But because every day I kept that promise, I was proving something to myself. I was proving that I was capable, that I was reliable, that I was serious. By week 6, I felt different, stronger. Not physically stronger, mentally stronger. I was building a new relationship with myself, one based on trust instead of disappointment, one based on follow-through instead of excuses, one based on respect instead of shame. And here's what happened by the end of those 90 days. I wasn't a legend yet. I wasn't wealthy. I wasn't famous. I wasn't where I wanted to be. But I was no longer average. I had proven to myself that I could do hard things, that I could follow through, that I was the kind of person who keeps promises. And once you prove that to yourself, once you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you'll do what you say you'll do, everything changes. Because that's when confidence is born. Real confidence. Not the fake, loud, show-off kind of confidence, but the quiet, deep, unshakable kind. The kind that says, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I know I'll figure it out because I always follow through. That's when you become dangerous in the best possible way. That's when there's no dream too big, no goal too distant, no obstacle too challenging. You become unstoppable, not because you're talented, but because you're reliable. And reliability, my friend, is more valuable than talent. Reliability is more powerful than genius. Because talent without discipline goes nowhere. Genius without follow-through accomplishes nothing. But an average person with discipline, they'll outperform the talented person every single time. Now let me explain to you why most people never develop this discipline. It's not because they're lazy. It's not because they don't care. It's because they fundamentally misunderstand what discipline is. They think discipline is about willpower. They think it's about forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. They think it's about suffering and sacrifice and deprivation. That's not what discipline is. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Let me say that again because it's important. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Most people set goals, they write them down. They visualize them, they talk about them at parties, share them on social media, tell their friends and family, but nothing happens. You know why? Because there's a gap between where you are right now and where you want to be. And most people think that gap gets closed by motivation, by inspiration, by a lucky break, by the right opportunity. It doesn't. That gap gets closed by discipline. Discipline is what takes you from thinking to doing, from planning to executing, from wanting to having. It's the bridge. And you cross that bridge one day at a time, one choice at a time, one small act of follow-through at a time. Here's what most people miss. Discipline isn't exciting. It's not glamorous. It doesn't feel like progress in the moment. Discipline is waking up early when you'd rather sleep in. It's doing the workout when you don't feel like it. It's reading the book when you'd rather scroll your phone. It's having the difficult conversation when you'd rather avoid it. It's doing the work when no one's watching, when no one's applauding, when there's no immediate reward. And it's in those moments, those boring, unglamorous, unrewarded moments that legends are made. Not in the spotlight, not on the stage, not when everyone's watching, but in the quiet morning hours, in the late nights when everyone else is relaxing, in the consistent, repetitive, seemingly insignificant daily choices that nobody sees. Because success isn't about the big moments. We all love the big moments. We love the victories, the celebrations, the recognition. But success isn't built in those moments. Success is built in the small moments, the ones nobody sees, the ones that don't make the highlight reel, the ones that feel meaningless in isolation. Let me give you an example. Reading 10 pages of a good book doesn't feel significant. It doesn't feel like progress. It doesn't change your life today. But do you know what happens if you read 10 pages every day? In a year, you'll have read 3,650 pages. That's roughly 12 books. In 5 years, 60 books. In 10 years, 120 books. Do you know what 60 books does to your mind, to your perspective, to your wisdom, to your earning potential? It transforms you completely. It gives you knowledge that most people will never have. It gives you insights that separate you from the crowd. It makes you valuable in a way that most people aren't. But here's the trap, and listen carefully. Reading 10 pages doesn't feel like it matters. It doesn't feel like you're getting ahead. So most people don't do it. They wait for the big moment, the big breakthrough, the big opportunity. They wait for life to change in one dramatic instant. And they miss the fact that life doesn't change in the big moments. Life changes in the small moments, repeated consistently over time. That's what I call the slight edge principle. Small disciplines, practiced every day, compound into extraordinary results. Small errors in judgment, repeated every day, compound into failure. Every choice you make is either moving you closer to the person you want to become or further away from that person. There's no neutral ground. You're either building or you're eroding. You're either planting or you're letting weeds grow. You're either becoming more disciplined or more undisciplined. Every single day with every single choice. And most people don't see this because the results aren't immediate. If you eat junk food today, you don't wake up obese tomorrow. If you skip the workout today, you don't lose all your fitness tomorrow. If you ignore your finances today, you don't go bankrupt tomorrow. So it feels like it doesn't matter. It feels like you can get away with it, but you can't. Because small errors in judgment, repeated every day, eventually compound into crisis. Eventually they catch up with you. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually. Just like the farmer who doesn't plant in spring eventually faces an empty barn in fall. This is the law. And you can't negotiate with the law. You can ignore it, but you can't escape it. The law doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care about your intentions. It only cares about your actions, what you do, not what you mean to do. What you practice, not what you plan to practice. Let me tell you another truth that might be hard to hear, but it's important. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Your goals don't determine your results. Your systems do. Your daily habits do. Your routine does. You can have the biggest dream in the world. You can write it down, put it on your vision board, tell everyone you know. But if your daily habits don't support that dream, you'll fail every single time. Not because you're not capable, not because you don't want it enough, but because wanting isn't enough, wishing isn't enough, hoping isn't enough. Let me give you an example that makes this crystal clear. Two people want to lose 50 pounds. They both set the same goal, they both want it equally, they both have good reasons, they both are motivated, but one person changes their system. They meal prep on Sundays. They walk every morning before work. They track their food. They remove junk food from their house. They joined a gym and schedule their workouts like appointments. The other person just hopes it happens. They rely on motivation. They tell themselves they'll try harder. They wait for the right time to start. Who succeeds? The one with a system. Every time. Not because they're more disciplined in some genetic sense, but because they designed their life in a way that makes discipline easier. They removed friction from good habits and added friction to bad ones. That's what most people don't understand. They're trying to muscle through life with motivation alone. They're trying to white-knuckle their way to success. And it works for a while. Maybe a week, maybe a month. But eventually motivation fades. Eventually the excitement wears off. Eventually life gets hard and busy and stressful. And when that happens, you don't rely on motivation. You rely on systems. Discipline isn't about willpower. It's about design. It's about setting up your environment so that the right choices are easy and the wrong choices are hard. It's about making your goals automatic instead of aspirational. Think about it like this. If you want to drink more water, put a water bottle on your desk. If you want to eat healthier, fill your kitchen with healthy food and get rid of the junk. If you want to read more, put books on your nightstand and put your phone in another room. If you want to exercise, lay out your workout clothes the night before. These seem like small things. They seem insignificant, but they're not. Because discipline isn't built through heroic acts of willpower. It's built through intelligent design, through making the path of least resistance the path that leads to your goals. Most people's lives are designed for failure. Their environment pulls them toward bad habits. The television is in the most comfortable room. The junk food is at eye level. The phone is always within reach. The path of least resistance leads away from their goals. And then they wonder why they lack discipline. They wonder why they can't follow through. It's not a discipline problem. It's a design problem. Fix the design and discipline becomes easier. Not easy, easier. There's a difference. Now let me share with you something that took me years to understand, something that once I finally grasped it changed everything. Discipline compounds, just like money compounds, just like knowledge compounds, just like relationships compound. Discipline builds on itself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you're not just completing a task, you're building character. You're becoming someone new. You're stacking evidence that you're the kind of person who follows through. And that evidence becomes your identity. Your identity, who you believe you are, is the strongest force in your life. It determines what you do, how you think, what you believe is possible. And your identity isn't fixed. It's not permanent. It changes based on the evidence you give yourself. If you consistently break promises to yourself, your identity becomes, I'm the kind of person who starts things but doesn't finish them. If you consistently choose comfort over challenge, your identity becomes, I'm the kind of person who takes the easy way out. If you consistently make excuses, your identity becomes, I'm the kind of person who doesn't follow through. But if you consistently keep your word to yourself, your identity becomes, I'm the kind of person who does what I say I'll do. If you consistently choose the harder right over the easier wrong, your identity becomes, I'm the kind of person who faces challenges. If you consistently show up even when you don't feel like it, your identity becomes, I'm the kind of person who is reliable. And once your identity changes, everything changes. Because you start making decisions based on who you are, not on how you feel. You don't ask yourself, do I feel like doing this? You ask yourself, is this what the person I'm becoming would do? That's the power of disciplined action repeated over time. It doesn't just change what you do. It changes who you are. And when who you are changes, your entire life changes. Let me tell you what discipline really is at its core. And this might surprise you. Discipline is not punishment. It's not restriction. It's not suffering. Discipline is self-respect in action. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you're saying, I matter. My word matters. My future matters. Every time you choose discipline over convenience, you're saying, I respect myself enough to do what's best for me, even when it's hard. Every time you follow through when you don't feel like it, you're saying, I value my commitments more than my comfort. That's self-respect. That's self-love. Not the shallow, indulgent kind of self-love that says, treat yourself every time things get hard. But the deep, mature kind of self-love that says, I care about my future enough to make hard choices today. Most people don't struggle with discipline because they're lazy. That's not the problem. They struggle because they don't respect themselves enough to follow through. They've broken so many promises to themselves that they no longer believe they're capable. They no longer trust their own word. They've lost faith in themselves. And that's a terrible place to be. When you can't trust yourself, when your own promises mean nothing, when you've learned through repeated evidence that you won't follow through, that creates a deep sense of shame, a deep sense of inadequacy. And that shame makes discipline even harder, creating a vicious cycle. But here's the beautiful truth, and I want you to really hear this. Self-respect is rebuilt, one choice at a time. You don't need to overhaul your entire life today. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to never make mistakes. You just need to keep one small promise, and then another, and then another, because every kept promise is a deposit into your self-esteem account. Every time you do what you said you'd do, even in the smallest way, you're proving to yourself that you're capable. You're building trust with yourself. You're becoming someone you can count on. And over time, those deposits compound. They build. They accumulate into confidence, into trust, into the unshakable belief that you are the kind of person who does what they say. And once you have that belief, once you trust yourself at that level, you become dangerous. You become unstoppable. You become legendary. Not because you're perfect, not because you never fail, but because you're reliable. And reliability is rare. Reliability is valuable. Reliability is what separates average from extraordinary. Let me talk to you now about something that causes so much confusion and frustration, the seasons of discipline. Because life has seasons, just like farming has seasons. And if you don't understand the season you're in, you'll frustrate yourself trying to force the wrong result at the wrong time. You can't harvest in the spring. It's not possible. You can wish for it, pray for it, demand it, but you can't harvest what hasn't grown yet. You can't plant in the winter. The ground is frozen. The conditions aren't right. And if you don't understand this, if you don't respect the seasons, you'll make yourself miserable. When you're building discipline, when you're starting something new, when you're making changes in your life, you're in planting season. Nothing visible is happening. You're showing up, you're doing the work, you're making the right choices, but you're not seeing results yet. Your bank account isn't growing. Your body isn't transformed. Your relationships aren't healed. Your business isn't thriving. And it's so tempting to look at that lack of visible progress and think, this isn't working. I'm wasting my time. I should try something else. But that would be like a farmer digging up his seeds a week after planting them to see if they're growing. You know what happens when you do that? You kill the seed. You interrupt the process. You guarantee failure. In planting season, you don't measure results. You can't. There are no results to measure yet. In planting season, you measure consistency. Did you show up today? Did you do the work? Did you plant the seed? That's the only question that matters. That's the only metric that counts. Most people quit during planting season because they judge their progress by the harvest. They're looking for the wrong thing. They expect to see results immediately, and when they don't, they assume it's not working, so they quit. They try something else. They start over with a new approach, a new strategy, a new plan, and they spend their entire lives planting and quitting, never staying long enough to see the harvest. But if you stay consistent, if you keep planting, keep watering, keep showing up, keep doing the work, even when you can't see any progress, harvest season will come. It always does. Not on your timeline, not when you want it, but it comes. That's the law of sowing and reaping. And here's the beautiful part. When harvest season comes, you reap exponentially more than you sowed. You plant one seed, you get a stalk with 100 seeds. You put in days and weeks and months of consistent effort, and you get years of benefit. The harvest is always greater than the planting, but you have to trust the process. You have to respect the season. You have to be patient enough to let the underground work happen before you expect to see above ground results. This is where most people fail. Not because they're not capable, not because they're not smart enough or talented enough, but because they're not patient enough. They don't understand the seasons. They expect spring planting to produce fall harvest immediately. And when it doesn't, they quit. Legends don't panic in planting season. They understand. This is where the real work happens. This is where character is built. This is where ordinary becomes extraordinary. Not in the harvest, but in the planting. Anyone can celebrate the harvest, but it takes someone special to stay committed during the planting. Let me give you a principle that will change how you see your entire life. You ready? Here it is. You don't become what you want. You become what you practice. Read that again. You become what you practice. Not what you wish for, not what you hope for, not what you intend, what you practice, what you do repeatedly, what you rehearse every day through your choices and actions. If you practice discipline, you become disciplined. If you practice excuses, you become excuse-driven. If you practice procrastination, you become a procrastinator. If you practice integrity, you become a person of integrity. If you practice learning, you become wise. If you practice saving, you become wealthy. If you practice kindness, you become kind. It's that simple. And it's that profound. Your life right now is the sum total of what you've been practicing. Your body is what you've practiced eating and moving. Your mind is what you've practiced thinking and learning. Your relationships are what you've practiced communicating and caring. Your finances are what you've practiced earning and saving and investing. Your character is what you've practiced being. Everything you are is the result of practice. And here's the empowering part. You can start practicing something new today, right now, this very moment. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need more time. You don't need to wait for Monday or the first of the month or the new year. You can start practicing the person you want to become right now. Want to be healthier? Start practicing healthy choices. Not next week, now. Want to be wealthier? Start practicing wealth-building habits today. Want to be wiser? Start practicing learning. This afternoon, want to be more disciplined? Start practicing discipline with the very next decision you make. The key word is practice, not perfection, not overnight transformation, not immediate results. Practice, repetition, consistency, showing up again and again and again, even when you're not good at it yet, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you don't see progress. Because practice is how you change. Practice is how you grow. Practice is how average people become legends, not through one heroic moment, not through one big decision, but through thousands of small practices stacked over time, compounding into transformation. And here's something most people never realize. You're already practicing something right now, today. You're practicing either discipline or you're practicing undiscipline. You're practicing either growth or you're practicing stagnation. You're practicing either the person you want to become or you're practicing the person you're trying to leave behind. There's no neutral ground. Every day is practice. The question is, what are you practicing? What are you rehearsing? What are you becoming? Most people practice bad habits unconsciously. They don't decide to become undisciplined. They just practice undisciplined choices over and over until it becomes who they are. They don't decide to become unhealthy. They just practice unhealthy choices until their body reflects those choices. They don't decide to become broke. They just practice broke behaviors until their bank account confirms it. But you can change what you practice. You can choose consciously and deliberately to practice something different. And if you practice it long enough, consistently enough, seriously enough, you become it. Not because of some magical transformation, but because practice creates identity. Practice creates character. Practice creates capability. Legends aren't born. They're practiced into existence. One choice at a time, one day at a time, one commitment at a time. And that means you can become one too. Starting today, starting now, starting with the very next choice you make. Now let me make this practical for you. Because principles are beautiful, but if you can't apply them, they're just nice ideas. And I'm not interested in giving you nice ideas. I'm interested in giving you tools that change your life. So let's talk about how you actually build discipline. Starting today, in a way that works, here's what I want you to do, and this is critical. Pick one thing. Just one. Not 10 things. Not a complete life makeover. One discipline that you're going to practice for the next 90 days. One commitment that if you kept it every single day for 3 months would change your life. Why one thing? Because discipline isn't built through complexity. It's built through consistency. And you cannot be consistent with 10 new habits. Your brain can't handle it. Your willpower can't sustain it. Your schedule can't accommodate it. You'll last a week, maybe 2, and then you'll crash. You'll quit. You'll feel like a failure. And you'll be back where you started, more discouraged than before. But you can be consistent with one thing. One clear, specific, achievable discipline that you commit to for 90 days. No exceptions, no negotiations, no matter what. So here's your assignment, and I want you to take this seriously. Pick one discipline. Make it specific. Don't say, I'm going to exercise more. That's too vague. Say, I will walk for 20 minutes every morning before breakfast. Don't say, I'm going to eat better. Say, I will eat a vegetable with dinner every night. Don't say, I'm going to save money. Say, I will put $10 in a savings account every single day. Specific, measurable, clear. So clear that there's no room for interpretation. So clear that you know, without question, whether you did it or not. And then Here's the commitment. Do it every day. Not when you feel like it, not when it's convenient, not when circumstances are perfect. Every single day for 90 days, no matter what. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, what if I miss a day? What if something comes up? What if I fail? Here's my answer. Don't miss a day. Treat this commitment like your life depends on it, because in a very real sense it does. Your future depends on whether you can keep this commitment. Your self-respect depends on it. Your transformation depends on it. This is not about the specific habit you choose. Reading or walking or saving, those are all good, but they're not the point. The point is building your capacity for discipline. The point is proving to yourself that you can make a commitment and keep it. The point is transforming your identity from someone who starts and quits to someone who commits and completes. And 90 days is the right time frame. Here's why. By day 30, it starts to feel easier. The resistance lessens, the habit begins to form. By day 60, it feels natural. It's part of your routine. You don't have to think about it as much. By day 90, it's who you are. It's your identity. You're not someone trying to do this thing. You're someone who does this thing. That's transformation. That's how discipline is built. Not overnight, not through inspiration, but through commitment, executed daily, over a long enough period that it becomes part of you. So right now, before you finish listening to this, decide, what's your one thing? What discipline will you commit to for the next 90 days? And I want you to write it down. Make it real. Make it concrete. Because a decision without action is just a wish. Now, let me give you another tool. Every morning when you wake up, before you check your phone, before you look at email, before you do anything else, I want you to ask yourself one question. What's one thing I can do today that my future self will thank me for? Not 20 things. One thing, one action, one decision, one choice that moves you closer to the person you're becoming. Maybe it's making that phone call you've been avoiding. Maybe it's meal prepping for the week. Maybe it's working on your skills for an hour. Maybe it's going to bed early so you're rested tomorrow. Whatever it is, identify it. And then do it first. Because here's what I've learned over decades of watching people transform their lives. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask yourself. And this question, this one simple question, forces you to think long term. It forces you to act with your future in mind instead of just reacting to whatever's urgent today. Most people wake up and react. They react to the alarm. They react to notifications. They react to other people's needs. They react to problems. They react to circumstances. They spend their entire day reacting. And at the end of it, they wonder why they feel exhausted and unfulfilled. It's because they never acted. They only reacted. But when you start your day by asking, what's one thing I can do today that my future self will thank me for? You shift from reactive to proactive. You shift from being a victim of circumstances to being an architect of your life. You shift from average to intentional. And then do that thing first, before email, before social media, before distractions, before the urgencies of other people. Do the one thing that matters most, the one thing that moves you forward, the one thing that builds your future. Because when you start your day with discipline, when you do the hard thing first, everything else becomes easier. You've already won. You've already proven to yourself that you're serious. You've already built momentum. And that momentum carries you through the rest of the day. This is how legends design their lives. They don't leave it to chance. They don't hope for the best. They don't rely on motivation. They design their day starting with one question every morning and one action that follows that question. Now here's another practice that'll change everything. The evening audit. At the end of every day, I want you to spend 5 minutes reviewing your choices. Not to beat yourself up, not to shame yourself, not to feel guilty, but to learn, to reflect, to grow. Ask yourself, did I keep my word today? Did I do what I said I would do? If the answer is yes, celebrate it. Write it down. Give yourself credit. Acknowledge the win, because small wins, acknowledged and celebrated, compound into big confidence. They build momentum. They reinforce your identity as someone who follows through. If the answer is no, don't shame yourself. Don't spiral into self-criticism. Instead, ask, what got in the way? What can I do differently tomorrow? What did I learn? This isn't about judgment. It's about awareness. Because self-awareness is the first step to self-improvement. You can't change what you're not aware of. Most people never audit their day. They just repeat the same patterns over and over and over, year after year, wondering why nothing changes. They make the same mistakes, fall into the same traps, struggle with the same weaknesses, and they never improve because they never reflect. But legends are different. They reflect. They learn. They adjust. They get better every day because they pay attention. They notice what works and do more of it. They notice what doesn't work and do less of it. It's that simple. 5 minutes a day. That's all it takes. 5 minutes of honest reflection. And over time, those 5 minutes give you clarity, direction, and the ability to course correct before small errors become big failures. This is one of the most valuable habits you can develop. The habit of reflection. The habit of learning from your own experience. The habit of becoming your own teacher, your own coach, your own mentor. Because here's the truth. You have everything you need to become who you want to become. You don't need someone else to fix you. You don't need perfect circumstances. You don't need more time. You just need to pay attention. You need to learn from your own life. You need to notice what works and do more of it. And that starts with 5 minutes every evening. 5 minutes to ask, did I keep my word? What got in the way? What can I do better tomorrow? That's how you grow. That's how you improve. That's how average becomes exceptional. Now let me tell you about one more practice that makes discipline easier. Accountability. Find one person, a friend, a family member, a co-worker, someone you trust, and tell them your commitment. Tell them your one discipline. Tell them, I'm committing to this for 90 days. I'm going to check in with you once a week. I just need you to ask me one question. Did you do it? That's it. You're not asking them to fix you. You're not asking them to motivate you. You're not asking them to solve your problems. You're just asking them to witness your commitment, to hold space for it, to check in. Because here's what happens when someone else knows. It becomes real. It becomes public. You've said it out loud to another human being, and there's something powerful about that. There's something that makes you less likely to quit, less likely to make excuses, less likely to let yourself off the hook. Not because you're afraid of disappointing them, although that might be part of it, but because saying it out loud makes it more than just a thought in your head. It makes it a commitment. A real, tangible, witnessed commitment. And when you have to report back, when you have to answer that question, did you do it? There's a level of honesty that's required. You can lie to yourself pretty easily. We all do it. We tell ourselves all kinds of stories about why we didn't follow through. But lying to someone else, that's harder. Looking them in the eye and saying, no, I didn't do what I said I'd do. That's harder. So most of the time you'll do it. Not because you want to, but because you said you would. Because someone is expecting a different answer. Because you don't want to be the person who breaks their word. And over time, that external accountability becomes internal accountability. You start keeping your word not because someone else is checking on you, but because you're the kind of person who keeps their word. The external pressure becomes internal discipline. And that's when real transformation happens. Legends don't build alone. They never have. They build with others. They surround themselves with people who hold them to a higher standard. People who don't let them settle. People who believe in them even when they don't believe in themselves. People who ask the hard questions and expect honest answers. So find your person. Find someone who cares enough to check in. Someone who's willing to ask, did you do it? Once a week for 90 days. And let them walk with you. Let them witness your transformation. Let them be part of your journey from average to legendary. Now let me bring this all together. Let me show you what happens when you take everything we've talked about and put it into practice. When you commit to one discipline for 90 days. When you ask yourself every morning, what's one thing my future self will thank me for? When you audit your day every evening. When you have someone holding you accountable. Here's what happens. You become someone different. Not all at once, not overnight, but slowly, steadily, surely. You become someone you can trust, someone you can count on, someone you respect. And when that happens, when you trust yourself at that deep level, everything in your life changes. Your relationships improve because you show up differently. You're more present, more reliable, more trustworthy. People can count on you because you can count on yourself. Your career improves because you bring a different level of commitment. You follow through. You complete what you start. You deliver on your promises. And people notice. Opportunities come to people who are reliable. Your health improves because you take care of yourself consistently. Not perfectly, but consistently. And consistency is what matters. Not the occasional workout, not the once-in-a-while healthy meal, but the daily discipline of caring for your body. Your finances improve because you make better decisions. You save instead of spend. You invest instead of waste. You plan instead of hope. And over time, those small financial disciplines compound into security, into freedom, into wealth. Your mind improves because you feed it differently. You read, you learn, you grow, you challenge yourself. You think deeply instead of just consuming content. And your mind becomes your greatest asset. Everything improves, not because you're perfect, but because you're disciplined, because you keep your word, because you do what you say you'll do, because you're reliable. And here's the beautiful irony. Most people think discipline is restrictive. They think it limits their freedom. They think it makes life harder, more rigid, less enjoyable. But the opposite is true. Discipline doesn't restrict your freedom, it creates it. When you're disciplined with your money, you have the freedom to buy what you want without guilt or stress. When you're disciplined with your health, you have the freedom to do what you want without pain or limitation. When you're disciplined with your time, you have the freedom to spend it on what matters most. When you're disciplined with your work, you have the freedom to advance, to earn more, to have more options. Discipline creates freedom. Undiscipline creates bondage. When you lack discipline, you're a slave to your impulses, your cravings, your emotions, your circumstances. But when you have discipline, you're free, free to choose, free to create, free to become. That's why I say discipline turns average people into legends. Not because legends are perfect, not because they never struggle, not because they have some special gift, but because they're free. Free from the tyranny of their own weaknesses, free from the limitations of their old patterns, free to become who they're meant to be. And you can have that freedom too, starting today, starting with one commitment, one discipline, one choice at a time. You don't have to be extraordinary to start, you just have to start. You just have to be willing. You just have to decide that you're done being average, that you're done settling, that you're done living below your potential. And then you practice. Day after day after day, through the planting season when nothing's visible, through the challenges and setbacks and moments of doubt, through the boring repetition and the unglamorous daily choices, you practice. You stay consistent. You keep your word. And slowly, quietly, surely, you become legendary. Not in the eyes of the world necessarily, but in your own eyes, in the eyes of the people who matter most. In the life you build, the person you become, the legacy you leave. That's what I want for you. That's what's possible for you. Not someday. Not when everything's perfect. Not when you're more ready. Now, today, with the life you have, the circumstances you're in, the resources you possess, you have everything you need. You just need to decide. Decide that you're worth the effort, that your future is worth the sacrifice, that your potential is worth the discipline. Decide that you're done being average and you're ready to become legendary. So here's where we are. You've heard the stories, you've learned the principles, you've been given the practices. Now it's decision time. You can close this video and go back to your life exactly as it was. Same habits, same patterns, same results, same frustration. Or you can decide right here, right now, that today is the day you start building the bridge between who you are and who you're meant to become. Discipline isn't complicated. It's not reserved for special people with special talents. It's not some genetic gift that you either have or you don't. It's available to anyone willing to make a decision and keep it. It's available to you right now, this moment. Remember this, you're not behind. You're not too late. You haven't missed your chance. You're not broken. You're not damaged beyond repair. You've just been waiting for permission to take yourself seriously. This is that permission. I'm giving it to you. But more importantly, you need to give it to yourself. You need to look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm worth this. My future is worth this. My dreams are worth this. I'm going to keep my word to myself. I'm going to follow through. I'm going to become the person I know I'm capable of being. And then you need to prove it, not with words, with action, with consistency, with discipline, one day at a time, one choice at a time, one commitment at a time. Here's my promise to you. If you do this, if you practice discipline, if you keep your word to yourself every single day, you will become legendary. Not because you're perfect. You won't be. Not because you never fail. You will. But because you're consistent. Because you're reliable. Because you respect yourself enough to follow through. And that's rare. That's valuable. That's what separates average from extraordinary. Not talent. Not luck. Not circumstances. But the simple decision to be disciplined, to keep your word, to do what you say you'll do, to become who you say you want to become. Let me leave you with something to say to yourself every morning. A mantra, a reminder, a commitment. Say this: I am the kind of person who does what I say I'll do. I am the kind of person who keeps my promises. I am the kind of person the world can count on. Say it when you don't believe it yet. Say it when it feels false. Say it when you failed the day before. Say it anyway. Because you're not lying, you're declaring, you're deciding, you're becoming. Say it until you believe it, and then live it until it becomes true. Until it's not just something you say, but something you are. Until your actions match your words. Until your life reflects your commitments. That's how legends are made. Not in moments of inspiration, but in moments of decision followed by consistent action. That's how average people become extraordinary. Not through talent or luck, but through discipline. And you can do this. I know you can. Because I've seen it happen thousands of times. I've watched people just like you transform their lives through simple discipline practice daily. I've watched them go from broken to whole, from struggling to thriving, from average to legendary, not because they were special, but because they decided to be disciplined. And then they backed up that decision with action, day after day after day, until they became someone different, someone better, someone they were proud to be. You can be that person too. You can have that transformation. You can live that life. It starts today. It starts with one decision, one commitment, one discipline practice for 90 days. So decide right now, what's your one thing? What discipline will you commit to? And then do it. Don't wait for Monday. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait for motivation. Start today. Start now. Start with the very next choice you make. And if this message resonated with you, if something in what I've shared has touched something in you, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Not for me, for you. As a commitment, as a declaration that you're serious about this. As a way of saying I'm in, I'm ready, I'm going to do this. Leave a comment and tell me the one discipline you're committing to for the next 90 days. Write it down. Make it public. Let it be witnessed. Because saying it out loud makes it real. And I want to see it. I want to witness your commitment. I want to be part of your journey. And subscribe to this channel because I'm here to walk with you. This isn't just one video. This is a journey we're on together. A journey from average to legendary. From potential to proof. From who you are to who you're meant to become. You're not average. You never were. You've just been waiting for someone to remind you of what you're capable of. Consider this your reminder. Consider this your wake-up call. Consider this the moment everything changes. Not because of what I said, but because of what you decided. Because of what you're going to do starting today. Because of the discipline you're going to practice. Because of the promises you're going to keep. Because of the person you're going to become. Now go. Go build your bridge. Go plant your seeds. Go keep your word. Go become legendary. I believe in you. Now you need to believe in you. And then prove it. One day. One choice. One discipline at a time. Go.